Hi, and welcome to Spiritual Link, the podcast, a podcast about how developing spiritual well being can help you in your daily life and how that can enhance your confidence in who you are and what you are. The podcast is hosted by Inez and Tor. Inez is a development medium with over 30 years of experience in the field, and Thor has been her apprentice since 2013. On the podcast, we are going to cover a broad range of topics such as meditation, chakras, intuition, and crystals, only to mention a few. In this episode, we go over the meaning behind and some of the reasons for the particular scenes that are in the meditation that you will be guided through in one of the upcoming episodes. At the end of the day, spiritual development really comes down to actually practicing the meditation. You can support us by sharing the episode on your social media channels, subscribing to our podcast, and leaving a review. Remember, you can always find us on Spiritual Link Co on Instagram. Hi Inez, how has your week been?
Hello, Thor. Hello. Great. Absolutely great. I'm so excited we're doing this podcasting today because I've had some really interesting questions thrown at me. And
Great.
I know you have as well. And it's just really getting exciting that we have the interest in what we're saying and what we're doing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It'd be interesting to explore some of the questions that we have received from our listeners and perhaps go into greater detail about some of the topics that we have gone over already. We have sort of started thinking about visual meditation or talked about visual meditation. But from what I'm hearing from the questions, now that you've got this as well, is that we should
Mhm.
perhaps explore that a tiny bit further.
That's exactly what I got as well. A request just to explain a little bit more because the people want to implement it. They want to know why they're implementing it. And that
Mm,
always works. And of course, as you know, Thor, I'm a qualified hypnotherapist as well. And from that basis, I also know that the mind is a really complex instrument. Um, and that instrument is geared towards survival. And that's what we're talking about. So the method, say, of visualization that, let's say, that we are introducing is still in accordance to what that person needs. Someone can be very laid back and they love to smell the flowers. Other people's minds are very active and they have to go around Silverstone in a great, fat Mercedes or something. So that diversity, I think, is important to emphasize because what we then decide to do as an individual, it'll work.
mm.
But the foundation of why visualization, as I said, the mind is a complex instrument. So we need to find something that our mind is willing to listen to. You are then in control. You say, I want to listen to this. And then, so the visualization plan, it should be a little bit interesting that you will follow. And then we do not think of all the other rubbish that's going on 24/7 in our brain. That's basically what visualization offers us.
Yeah, it gives us a path to follow, right? Because often when I
Yes.
work with, and I know that when you work with your clients, and I work with the people I work with as well, is that the visual meditation often gives them something to hold on to, right? So,
Yes.
when I work with people, it's often during their lunch hour or in their morning. And like in the morning, especially, it's like, if they've already opened their emails and they're starting to respond to them, and then they come in and do the meditation, they find that the visual meditation path that we use allows them to like stop thinking about those emails for
Yes.
a period of time, because that's what the meditation really is offering, is the ability to like step back for that moment, and the visual meditation helps us to like stick on that path that we are trying to follow.
Oh, most definitely. From what you're saying, when we are able to, I'll get back to our point of explanation, but by being able to access that deeper part of our subconscious mind, say we're opening the emails, we're opening whatever it happens to be, we are then able literally to communicate with that part of us which has, say, negative thoughts or negative habits. So we're talking about a big package of self-help as well. And it does not take an awful lot. The repetition of we begin by relaxing the body. Many people can do that, but then relax the body. Go a little further. We know relaxing is good. And then we're on, once the relaxation takes place, then we're on a dusty road. Many of us have been, say, to the Sahara, to other arid places. We walk, dusty. It's not a matter that we're ignorant, but why are we doing this? The non-understanding comes from the lack of purpose we sometimes feel in our mundane or very stressful life. And that can be overcome by step. And by walking on that, we all of a sudden, the lightness we feel is because we are releasing the heavy thoughts that might be within us. So we feel light. And the mind takes that lightness with it. And then as that lightness draws up, where do we go after that? We're drawn into another, say, area of time where then, because your mind is relaxed, let us visualize a brook. How nice, a gurgling brook. Everyone can visualize a gurgling brook. And that brook, it's small, it's not necessarily big and rumbling. It's the brook of life. We go on and we go on and on. But by focusing our visualization on that little brook, we can hear it. Perhaps you can smell the fresh water, see it. And then we step over. It is a point of divide between our physical mind and that of our, let us say, the deeper mind, which is still ours. But that deeper mind knows what you need. Let go. Let go for that time. As long as you're doing that visualization, nothing's going to change in your life. It can only get better. So once we're in that meadow, then we go on. What do you think, Thor? You have thoughts of that as well, because you say you were asked that question. What do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you've said in before, I think you've sort of talked about the dusty road as in terms of like ignorance and non-understanding. And I suppose it's interesting to explore what we mean by ignorance or non-understanding. And it's interesting what you said about like not having a sense of purpose, because I think you and I are both firm believer in that our sense of purpose is something which we obviously can articulate for ourselves, but it's something which has to come from within ourselves. And I think that if we don't try and spend some time sort of leaving, just for a period of time, trying to leave behind all of those physical, leave behind the physical mind for time being, we can't necessarily authentically access that purpose which sits within us. And I think the dusty road in so many ways is an interesting way of visualizing that we're sort of leaving all of that behind, and then we step into the brook of life. I think what I've often appreciated, the visual path is always the same, but it does change sometimes. And what we do sometimes is that we lean and when we drink from the brook, and then you sort of look at the reflection, and there's many faces from past time which flows across your face, or flows across your vision. I mean, I think that's an interesting idea of looking at that life is always continuing, right? And I really appreciate that part about the meditation. Do you mind going a bit deeper into that part of the book of life and the continuation?
No, you're absolutely correct. I think that depth that is being asked of us is very many times we feel inadequate. I think because of this coronavirus, things will never be the same. Maybe it's just as good. Maybe we've come to terms that the person that cleans the toilets in the hospitals all of a sudden is recognized for the same importance as some amazing doctor. We're all important, but we cannot all have the same job. But it does not mean that we are less valuable in society. We all have different roles at different times of our lives. And every life that we lead, whether it is sitting there doing nothing or we feel inadequate, is totally, totally important and has relevance. So with that, as you mentioned, sometimes for a little bit of variation, we cup the water, we stoop down, we cup this cool breath, this cool water of life in our hands. And before allowing it to say flow over our mouth, you can feel the coolness trickling down your mouth, your chin, down your neck, and your chest and your forearms. For that second, maybe you can see a scenario of other times. Maybe you see fighting armies, which perhaps can give you an indication you fought battles before. You don't know with that look if you won or not, if that's the last glimpse you had of life. But that's not the point. You've been in battles. We've all been in battles. And it just never stops. But how we perceive ourselves of value is so important. So very important.
Yeah.
And that little bit of glimpse, we're not all amazing individuals if you move into a regressive state. How can we be? But I think we're amazing in our own right, in the fight for survival that we have every single day of our life. And certainly now, more than ever, we do not know what is around the corner. We know our economy has shrunk by 20.4%.
Yeah,
and Brexit is not settled. So where does that leave all of us?
Yeah. So it's
exactly.
Yes, it's really important to access that strength within, right? And I think phrase you used. There was another phrase you used, which was, and I thought you said that really well in terms of that we have our sort of, let's call it our physical mind and the deep mind.
Yes.
And although the physical mind and the deep mind is all a part of us, you know, it's all an equal important part of us. But when we do access that deep mind, we can get that strength from spirit to like fuel. I suppose fuel, it's almost like there's like fuel from the deep mind accessing or giving fuel to the physical mind to cope with one's own reality, right? Whatever that life may be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like a light bulb going on. It's like a switch going on. But what we're talking about is actually so natural. We don't always have to use spirit or anything else. It is so part of us because we are also part of spirit. So we can use any terminology that might be acceptable to any individual. But that inner strength is maybe our gut feeling. Maybe you have a fuzzy feeling going up your spine. It's exactly the same thing. And the only reason it is different because we are all meant to be different. And we should actually cherish the fact that we are different. And we think different. And through our differences, that individual then becomes whole. And we can produce something.
Yeah. From, you know, you were talking about really feeling the cool waters in your hand and really drinking it. Why in your mind, why is it so important that we really activate all our senses, right? Because although we call it a visual meditation, we're also feeling the grass, or like it's like taste is involved. Like, why is it so important that all our senses comes into play?
Well, there are the 5 known senses.
Yeah.
If we're all lucky, we have them. But then there is the 6th sense. And what we are advocating and bringing forward is the very natural 6th sense. And that 6th sense is what then literally directs us towards what we need at that time. Calm, strokey, calm. Hold in there, stay tight, it'll pass. Or bling, you have a new idea. That is the 6th sense. And that still comes from a form of guidance. And that guidance people need to hold on to in their own individual ways. But again, it's that inner sense that keeps us moving. And that is what is so important. And through visualized meditation, you then start seeing something. And we will see something, each perhaps in our own way. Yes, we can say a thought, you know, now then there's a brook of water, you can hear it, gurgle, gurgle, you can smell it. So all of a sudden your mind is starting to be in a different place. You're skipping the reality of where you're sitting or lying. But then all of a sudden you're no longer sitting in your chair, lying on your couch. You're someplace very, very different. And that different place is then what accesses that subconscious mind, that inner strength, our ability. And if we were talking about, say, more material things, but one very important material aspect is also our physical health.
Yeah.
We cannot make things go away, but a lot of the modern illnesses are related to stress and anxiety. We are expected to perform so much, so very, very much. We're still supposed to be both sexes. We're supposed to feel masculine and empowered. We're supposed to bring forward the feminine side. We're supposed to be strong. We're supposed to homeschool. We're supposed to be the director. So much emphasis is placed on what we're meant to do. There's no time to smell the flowers.
And feel that awe of reality,
Ah,
right?
yeah, exactly. But the time that each of us advocates for, this quarter of an hour I have for myself. I have half an hour and I will make the most of it. That is for yourself. And nobody can take that away. No one can take away your thoughts. That is always ours. So from that, the dusty road to the meadow, we also pass through another glimmering array of colors and so on and so forth. It then brings us to that depth of linking in with ourselves.
And I think another thing it's interesting. So I was talking to someone yesterday who's been, it's coming from that like stress, right? People
Yeah.
used to be, probably people still a lot are quite stressed from just life in general. Yeah, working, being a parent, doing all of these things at
Yeah.
the same time. But I was talking to someone yesterday as a result of having to work a lot more at home. He's now had a much more time to like spend reflecting and really wanting to really understand what he wants out of life. And he said that now, because he's just had so much time to reflect,
Yes.
he's like quitting his job and doing something completely
Wow.
different. And I think that's
Huge.
another thing, that although we all have like really busy schedules, meditation does give us that space to take a step back from everything that's going on outside of ourselves, and we get that space to reflect and really understand what we as individuals want out of life, right? I think meditation is a really good practice to achieve that and really get closer to what we're meant to be doing, and have that, like, yeah, just reduce that stress and create that space, basically.
Absolutely, and also what is doable. The practicality of it also comes forward. And as you said, the person you're talking about, I also got a couple of questions on loneliness. And
Yeah.
I could feel from their question, it wasn't just, yes, meditation, possibly a lifeline to erasing or eradicating a form of loneliness, or getting to terms with it, of course. I mean, we're at home now. We cannot date as such, but also when the dating scene is alive, many of us are not able to find a partner. And then, you start thinking about, oh God, what am I wrong? Don't I look good enough? Why can't I find someone? In meditation, again, the focus is on you. You are good enough. Maybe there is more reason than we know that why you have not found someone. It's not because you're not good enough or there isn't anyone. These questions that are paramount to our total existence are in the visual meditations. It gives us something to hold on to. Sometimes it's not in so many words, but we feel it. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I like it. I like being where I am. And because the emphasis maybe has been lifted from your shoulders, your mind is different, you find someone. How often have we read stories of couples who went on IVF trying to have a child? Oh, for years and years. They had the first one, yippee, and then they said, oh, everything is fine. We have our little darling. And then lo and behold, because their mind was at ease, it happened naturally.
Mm.
And that is the same thing with our life. If we step back, as you said, Thor, things will happen on a very natural basis. All we can do by worrying about it is to give us an ulcer, gray hairs, and anxiety. And that anxiety, people can feel it. Just by opening your mouth, even with a trained smile on your face, people know.
Yeah, because people know. And I suppose a word that comes to my mind is like acceptance.
Yes. But
I
it
think
says acceptance in a good way.
acceptance in a good way.
Not to throw in the towel, okay, everything is calm, I can't do anything about it, woohoo. it's not quite like that.
Yeah, no, acceptance has to be coupled with like action, kind of, or
Yes.
something like that, right? Acceptance has to be not an acceptance, or yeah, like you said, like lying down and just doing
Yeah, it
nothing and
doesn't
like
matter.
giving
I
up. It's
won't
sort of,
try anymore. Yeah.
yeah, it's like an acceptance. Okay, so it's sort of a acceptance about the present and an energy or like hopefulness about the future.
Yes.
You know, I think that's a quite nice. I
Yes.
think
Yes.
that's quite a
Yes,
nice
I
way.
think it is. Yes. Um, because that same instance, well, let's say, so we're by the brook of water, and just to go on for a little bit, because there's something very interesting about the questions that we have been asked to answer. But once we're on stepping over, we move into the literally into our mind. It's a safe room. Nobody can touch that. Awful things can be hurled at you, da da da. But nobody can take away the integrity of what you think. No one can. So this make-believe meadow in your mind is surrounded by trees. That is the barrier. Nobody can intrude. Your thoughts. That's when you become aware of nature. You are part of the earth. You can feel the grass growing beneath your feet. You can feel the wind whispering messages in your ear. You know what the little bird is saying. All of those things become one because you're then connected with everything around you in this state. It's not meditation yet. It's still a state of concentration. So important. And that's when your mind is able to reach out. All the thoughts on the planet, they're all coming towards us. And you can filter. What do you want to hear? And then, of course, what we did not, or Margie, you approached on Thor, is literally the chakrams. Communications, communication points. We're not talking about anything weird. We're talking what is part of us. And if we can open those, really open them, all of a sudden, woohoo, we can literally understand what we can be. Mr. Doolittle. We know what is saying, what the animals are saying. We become total part of everything that is around us. What you will know what the other person is thinking. If they're grouchy, your boss is unpleasant to you, you will immediately feel that, oh, there's something. Not just concentrate on your own hurt, but oh God, what's happened with him or her? You are totally involved. And that's when things work for that individual, because we don't take things to heart. We don't go out of that room with a sinking feeling or even aggression. Oh, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm perfect. Concentrate on the person. Make that right. And your own life becomes right. Did somebody ask you about the chakrams yet, Thor?
Yes, I suppose we did give a brief introduction to the chakras, but I think it would be interesting to. We did get a question around exploring them a bit more, or like understanding how they are. I suppose how they are connected to us as human beings. Like, what does it mean? Because obviously, it's not something you can see with a naked eye, right? So it's like, where do they exist? I suppose is one of the questions that I've got.
Yes. They of course exist in our aura that is around us. That is the spiritual self, which is because it moves so fast. Energy force, it almost looks as if it's stationary. You said not being able to see it with a naked eye. That's quite right. But we are able to see it or feel it with the inner eye, with an inner sight. Then we are able to do say aura readings. You get an essence of our thoughts are recorded in our aura. So when we were talking about the deeper sense of meditation by being in that meadow, for example, and linking in, say, with your boss, we are then moving. You are then actually drawing into yourself the auric pattern of that individual, and you get an idea of what is happening or what has happened to that person, why they are saying that. If it is a general criticism for your benefit, or if they're just a bad hair day.
Yeah.
So, then we obviously also get into, from the sixth sense, the reading of the aura is still a sixth sense, but then we can leap into the seventh sense. And some individuals are very powerful aura readers. amazing aura readers. And it is not a gift, it is something that's in your life's bag this time. We all have it, but we can't all do the same job. So some people are very much in the forefront of that. But then we get into the sixth or the seventh sense as well, because then we can hop into clairvoyance and other areas as well. But the chakrams, really important, really important. Feeling it, because you can then also get an idea of your own feeling your body. You do an MOT on your body. Oh, okay. To balance it. Why, oh, that doesn't feel quite right. Maybe someone stepped on your toes, literally or just psychologically. Or you heard something. Or you're worried about the future. All of those things has an effect on our body. Yes, they're very, very important. You can either take it into the confines of helping your own life, or you could take it further. You could be wherever you are at this point, and then maybe in a year's time you think, oh, I'd like to explore, or reading a little bit more. All of that, you don't have to do everything at once.
Yes, I suppose like walking, because a part of the meditation, right, is that we open up these 7 doors and we sort of access each chakra one at a time. And I suppose in so many ways, accessing each chakra one at a time is almost like a self-awareness exercise, right?
You can become, excellent. Yes. Yes.
The more, because I do believe in that, the more self-aware you become of yourself and what is influencing who you are, which is our chakras do influence who we are.
Yes.
Because that's also a way to connect with other people, right? Because if we have explored ourselves, we understand that actually the way that we behave isn't always right, or it's because we're having a bad hair day.
Exactly.
So then we can understand that if a person is behaving poorly towards us, we can understand that perhaps this is also because they are having a very bad hair day.
Yes, yes, exactly. On the 7 chakras, of course, there are more than 7 chakrams.
Yeah.
They are the 7 known chakras, and then they immediately ignite all the other chakrams in our body as well. They're on the palms of our hands, our feet, and so on and so forth. You can get some amazing diagrams on chakrams as well. They're absolutely. But on the other hand, if we, by opening the 7 ones, the 7 major ones, they immediately open the other ones as well. So then, of course, with the open chakrams, we can get into, say, the healing by hands. We get reflexology, which is on the feet, of course, and many beautiful, beautiful things worldwide, absolutely worldwide. So the chakrams are really, really important. They can do an awful lot for us. But as you said, to open them, it is equally imperative to know that, and it is imperative, that you must also close them in the correct way, because we haven't discussed opening, closing, because the base chakra, super important. You will gain no more strength by having that wide open and think you can make more progress in your life. Contradictory, totally, because that's red is the color of aggression. Can be lust, aggression. It's a powerful color. So just a teeny weeny bit. That's all that's needed. And the same thing, only concentrating on the third eye, which is denoted as being spiritual, be spiritual. No, everything works together in harmony. And by following the sequence of bit by bit, then you will fly in accordance to your life, not in accordance to somebody else's. It can be dangerous because you can go over the top in the way of your mind. You can become unhinged. It is very important not to overdo anything. Yeah. Sugar is good in moderation. Fat is good in moderation. Everything is good in moderation.
Yeah, because I suppose that's an interesting piece about that. You can, in fact, if you overdo it, become quite ungrounded, right? You can become
totally, but super ungrounded.
And doing super stuff which is. And I think that's a difficult, I suppose that's an interesting thing to perhaps discuss in the future, is where does the boundary between, let's say, fantasy and reality exist, right? Because the mind, because, you and I, we talk a lot about messages and connecting with our guides and like becoming like connected with our inner knowing.
Yes.
But there is a layer outside of that, which is sort of fantasy land.
Yeah, absolutely.
We still firmly believe in that. And I suppose that's why it's also really important to work with a development medium like yourself, because you can be someone who has walked the line beforehand and can sort of nudge when
Yes.
something is stepping perhaps into fantasy land, because I think that's also a really
Yes.
important thing to address,
Yes.
that can definitely happen.
Yes. I totally agree with you. I always feel that not to believe everyone. Proof is a great yardstick as far as I'm concerned, and also to have enough faith and trust in yourself. If you don't like the sound of something, you step back and go another path, find something else. A lot of this, I mean, a lot of it is also a money-making situation. Nothing wrong with that. We all have to live. But the obscurity sometimes of what is being said is out of the realms of reason. It has to be bigger and better than anybody else's. It doesn't have to be bigger and better. As we said earlier on, what we're doing is natural. It is very, very natural.
And
And
it's
I
really,
hope that, yeah, it's natural for people to say, no, thank you.
yeah, and it's really, at the end of the day, it's just to improve our sense of, like, it begins and ends with our sense of health and well-being, right?
Yes, it does. And to lead our way, our life in accordance to what makes us happy and works for us.
Yeah.
That is important.
Because I think what's really important to say as well is that you can be a banker and be
Yeah.
interested in this, or you
Yes.
can live in an ashram in India. It doesn't matter.
Totally.
You know, I
Well,
think that's what's so important about this as well, is that this practice is something everyone and anyone can take part in. You don't have to dress in a certain way. You
nothing.
don't have to eat in a certain way.
Nothing.
You don't even have to live your life in a certain way.
No.
But the important bit is that you do the meditative practice for yourself, for your own
Yes.
life.
Yes, no, I totally agree. I don't know if I ever told you, but I had a group of SAS men in my group once. It was only half a year. That was before they were sent on assignment. And afterwards, a couple of years, one of them came back again and just said that how much the visualization actually helped them in their work. Just to close down, just to step back after a very difficult day or week. So it helps all sorts of individuals when they're at a point where maybe it is either it's life or death is at their hands. So even them, they had that enormous, say, I suppose they just it calmed their mind. It allowed them to step back and appreciate life in all its situations, because when we're talking of that life and death, karma is a direct force, and it's something that's conveyed in many different areas in many different ways, and that is also the understanding of life, not to become brutal and horrible, but also to accept some workings are beyond our control as well.
Because again, I think that takes us back to that the meditation helps us to accept our life for the way that it is.
Yes.
And hopeful about the future. And just for our listeners to, because I think we've sort of been jumping around slightly, and just to say that the meditation that we do is created by, like, there's a body relaxing exercise first, and then we move into the dusty road, which is sort of the dusty road of non-understanding. Then there's a brook, there's a meadow, and then we open up these 7 chakras, and then after a couple of minutes we normally close them back down. Do you think that's a good way of explaining it?
A very good thought. I like that. Also that our meditation is a very positive therapy. It is non-intrusive, and it is able to give you back the control of your life.
Yeah, it's about taking you back into the driver's seat, right?
Yes, exactly. That the emotions don't control you. We cannot help being human, but there's a point where we can also break.
Yeah.
And meditation, this meditation, as I said, is non-intrusive, and it can give you back the control of your life.
And I mean, I think that's such a powerful thing in itself, right? Because I think a lot of people feel that perhaps they don't have any control, and everything is simply like a reaction, an impulse. Yeah. And then by practicing the meditation, we can rein some of that back in again. Because again, like, it's never about, I suppose it's never about not feeling, right? It's never about not feeling ecstatic. It's just to not lose that control completely I think
Exactly.
it's a very important thing. And I think, yeah, I think that's a very important thing.
I mean, life is like a corner, but it's up to us to turn that corner. And the first step is up to ourselves. And that
Mm,
first step is to move into meditative calming state for our body, for our mind, for our future, for our
mm,
well-being.
mm. And it's something that we do for ourselves
Yes, we do it for ourselves,
and nobody else.
nobody else. And we're really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to more questions,
Yeah.
because the feedback is absolutely, it is so interesting, Thor, as the questions that I got, and all of a sudden, as you did too, from what we exchanged, and the questions and the comments. The comments
Yeah.
are vital as well.
Yeah.
We'd
Yeah.
love to hear your comments on what you thought was good, not good enough, or don't agree with. That's part of life.
If there's some,
That's what we should be doing. Exchanging and sharing viewpoints and
yeah.
ideas.
If there's anything which needs to be explained
Yeah,
more, or if there's
exactly.
any topics that people would like us to cover, because there's
Yes,
just so much to expand on in
yes.
terms of sort of universal wisdom, but also just
Mhm.
how to go about living one's life in general,
Right.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. Anyway,
amazing. Thank
may
you.
the force be with you.
Always.
Yeah, always. Yeah, always. Take care, Thor.
You too. Take care.
Thank you. Yeah. And to all of our listeners,
Bye.
bye. Toodaloo.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Spiritual Link, the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or wants us to explore a topic in greater detail, please reach out on our Instagram at Spiritual Link Co.